Imagine coming home to find a bleach blonde busybody with a clipboard and a cop car in your driveway, accusing you of building an illegal eyesore that's actually just a chicken coop on your own damn land. Now picture her face when you drop the bomb that you own the whole freaking mountain, and her precious HOA doesn't touch a single acre. It all started in the sleepy suburbs of Evergreen Heights, Colorado, where the air smelled like fresh-cut lawns and unspoken resentments. I, Jack Harlan, had bought my 400-acre spread 5 years before the developers carved up the valley below into cookie-cutter McMansions governed by the Evergreen Heights Homeowners Association. My place was a rugged retreat, rolling hills, a modest ranch house, and enough space to breathe without some neighbor breathing down your neck. But peace? That was a joke once Brenda Whitaker showed up. Brenda was the HOA president. A picture-perfect suburbanite in her late 50s, pearl earrings, yoga pants that screamed "I run this block," and a smile that could curdle milk. She preached community standards like a televangelist. But really, she was a control freak wrapped in bylaws, terrified of any smudge on her perfect little kingdom. I was knee-deep in dirt, hammering the final nails into my new chicken coop, a simple wooden thing for my free-range hens, when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A sheriff's SUV rolled up. Lights off but authority on full blast. Out stepped Deputy Ramirez, a no-nonsense guy with a mustache that said he'd seen it all. And trailing him like a bad shadow? Brenda, clipboard in hand, lips pursed like she'd bitten into a sour grape. "Afternoon, Mr. Harlan," the deputy said, tipping his hat. "Got a complaint about an unpermitted structure. Says it's visible from the community trail and violates aesthetic guidelines." Brenda jumped in, her voice dripping with that fake polite venom. "Exactly, deputy. It's an absolute eyesore. Lowers our property values. We have rules in Evergreen Heights, covenants to maintain harmony." I straightened up, wiping sweat from my brow, and couldn't help a small chuckle. "Harmony? This coop's for my chickens, Brenda. And last I checked, my land isn't part of your HOA playground." Her eyes narrowed behind those designer shades. "Oh, but it is. The boundary extends up the hill. We've got maps." The deputy shifted uncomfortably. "Mind if I take a look at your deed, sir?" I nodded, pulling a folder from my truck. "Be my guest. Here's the survey, shows my parcel starts at the old creek and runs clear to the peak. Your community ends a mile down." Brenda leaned in, scanning the papers like she could will them to change. Her face tightened, but she recovered with a sniff. "This must be outdated. The board approved an extension for shared vistas." I laughed outright then, a deep, rumbling one that made the deputy smirk. "Shared vistas? You mean peeking at my mountain from your McMansion porches?" "Sorry, Brenda, but you can't HOA the sky." The deputy handed back the papers. "Looks clean to me. No jurisdiction here." Brenda's cheeks flushed pink. "But property values." She stormed off to her gleaming SUV, muttering about appeals and standards. I watched her go, thinking that was the end. Boy, was I wrong. A couple days later, a certified envelope showed up in my mailbox, thick as a brick and stamped with the HOA's pretentious crest, like they were royalty. Not a bunch of nosy neighbors. Inside? A demand for back dues, $750 a month for shared amenities like trail maintenance and fire breaks. Retroactive 2 years. Total? Over $18,000. I stared at it, coffee going cold in my hand. Brenda's signature looped at the bottom. All flourish in fake authority. As a beneficiary of our infrastructure, it read. You are obligated to contribute. Beneficiary? I'd cut those trails myself years ago. This wasn't a bill, it was extortion dressed in legalese. I could have ignored it. But I'd been a real estate lawyer in my past life, before ditching the suits for boots. So, I fired up my computer. Overlaid their HOA filings with county plats. Crystal clear, no overlap. No easements. Their extension was a fantasy. I drafted a cease and desist. Sharp as a tack. Cease all attempts to assert jurisdiction over my property, it said. Further harassment will result in legal action. I copied the state AG's office and the county recorder. Send it certified. Return receipt. The next week, I stopped by the recorder's office. Old-timer clerk. Gladys. Rolled her eyes when I mentioned Brenda. That woman's been redrawing maps in her sleep. Your land's grandfathered, pre-HOA by a decade. She printed fresh copies. And I mailed those too. Brenda's response? Silence at first. But then whispers started in town, rumors I was a recluse hoarder dodging civic duty. I heard it at the feed store, Harlan's got something to hide up there. I kept quiet. Watching. Documenting. Brenda was ramping up. And I was ready. Things got uglier when orange survey flags popped up on my fence line one morning. I yanked one out, marked for a drainage project. Turns out, Brenda had petitioned the county for a trench through my pasture, claiming my runoff flooded their precious cul-de-sacs. Runoff? My land sloped away from them. This was straight-up trespass to plant those flags. I snapped photos. Filed a report with the sheriff. Anonymous tip, the desk sergeant said. But we both knew. Then came the inspector. I caught him mid-stride. A weaselly guy in a vest. Snapping pics of my barn. HOA compliance check, he said. Clipboard shaking. For what? This ain't your sandbox. He stammered about extended oversight. I pointed to the fence he'd hopped. That's trespassing. Buddy. Tell Brenda her oversight ends here. He scampered off. And I emailed the state licensing board with pics and my deed. The firm called the next day, contract canceled. Apologies. Brenda was slipping, her moves getting sloppier. More desperate. But she wasn't done. Sirens wailed up my drive one Tuesday. 2 cruisers. A fire truck. Hazardous materials report, the lead cop said. Anonymous tip, unsafe storage. Fire risk. My gut twisted. Warrant? No dice. Safety issue. I blocked the gate. No entry without one. And check this. I pulled footage from my trail cams, night vision gold, 2 HOA goons. Gloves on. Sneaking oily rags near my fence. That's your hazard, I said. The cops' faces hardened. We'll investigate. Brenda's setup? Backfiring spectacularly. The investigation snowballed. Sheriff pulled phone records. Statements. Word leaked, Brenda's board had orchestrated the tip. Charges flew, trespassing. Conspiracy. False reporting. But digging deeper, HOA funds were funky. A consulting firm in Nevada siphoned $150,000 for upgrades that never happened. Shell company. P.O. Box only. I tipped off the AG with my research, bylaws buried a clause, criminal probes suspend board members. With 5 under fire. The HOA triggered reorganization. Anyone with vicinity property could run. Vicinity? My mountain loomed over them. I petitioned for the ballot. Brenda freaked. Her lawyers squawking ineligible. But their own rules? Airtight. The emergency meeting packed the clubhouse, tense air thick with whispers. I stood in jeans and boots. I didn't want this fight, I said. But you dragged me in with fake bills. Trespassers. And arson setups. This HOA's a bully pulpit. Not a community. Time for transparency, audits. Term limits. No more power trips. Brenda wasn't there, hiding behind advice. Votes tallied, I won big. As interim chair, I froze funds. Fired their shady lawyers. Redrew boundaries per county maps. My land? Officially free. Then the floodgates opened, residents spilled tales, $1,200 fines 4 ugly mailboxes. Coerced donations for Brenda's pet projects. I compiled it all. Referred to AG for class action. Charges upgraded, fraud. Embezzlement. Clubhouse break-in? Files trashed. Cams wiped. But I'd pushed for off-site backups weeks prior. Handed the prosecutor a drive, here's your smoking gun. Trial was a circus. Brenda on stand. All Terry misguided zeal. But voicemails played, push hard. Or we lose control. Jury? Guilty in hours. 12 years. Restitution. HOA insurance tanked, they voted to dissolve in 2 years, dues refunded. Duties to county. Peace returned to my ridge, chickens clucking. Dogs barking. No more clipboard tyrants. I added a sign, private land, HOA free zone. Trespassers will be politely educated. The neighborhood threw barbecues instead of meetings. Flags waving like they'd won a war. But as I watched the sunset from my porch, I wondered, was Brenda the real villain? Or just a symptom of a system that lets petty kings rule with paper crowns? You tell me, was dismantling her empire justice? Or did I become the bully in the end?